Hey guys, what's up? It's Schlaw, and today I'm bringing you another episode of Car Rides Wit Schlaw. Now, I was very hype and excited, and I just took a total nosedive because I couldn't believe what just happened. So I was purposely just, I don't know, curious to do. I wasn't even trying to do a 12-hour shift. That wasn't my intention at all. My intention was not to do a 12. Now, I'm noticing I forgot to shift into manual. I don't really like that, but wow, this thing, the automatic really shifts low. It's just so crazy. I wonder what gear I'm even in now. It really shifts very low RPMs. Super low RPMs. It's probably better for the recording. I know it's better for gas mileage to use the auto, but I don't like it. My OCD doesn't like it. So I think when I get to the stop sign, I'm going to switch it back into manual. But I'm sure that's why I get better mile per gallon in auto. It's kind of silly though, because I feel like the manual it doesn't let you shift up sooner, I don't think. Like, it's almost like you have to use the automatic. But it's still crazy how much it shifts, and I can't believe that. Anyways, I don't know if I just did something that totally bugged out the system. I had clocked in at 6:30, and I was going to clock out at 6:29, which that's not a 12-hour day, and the buttons did not pop up on the app to clock in or clock out. But they had popped up for a split second when it was 6:28. So I'm assuming that means there's some kind of system in place where I don't know. It's like, it's weird, right? I wouldn't think that would happen, especially because I didn't hit 12. I purposely wasn't trying to hit 12. And then so I had to run back inside and press and manually do the key, and I don't know if it worked or not. It's weird, right? Because I'm thinking like, well, if the button doesn't pop up on the this car definitely goes into fourth gear. That's just crazy. They shift it down. They shift it so hard to squeeze the mile per gallon out of. I don't think that makes any sense. That's definitely worse for I don't know. I know it's worse for the engine. And it's probably worse for the transmission too, because you're just doing more unnecessary shifts. But I'm really annoyed about that. I guess I know for the future, if I'm trying to do more crazy time stuff, that I have to, I guess, err a few minutes on the side of caution. But it's just very stupid. I'm really upset about that. And the other thing too is it's also plausible it's an unrelated glitch. I actually don't know. You know what I mean? But I'm hoping. I scanned it at 2 different scanners before I left. So I even recorded myself scanning it. So if there's any issue or discrepancy, there really shouldn't be, especially because I'm pretty good about scanning at a consistent time. So I hope that things work out. I really do. But I always get very upset and obsessive over these things because I care a lot about numbers, and I care a lot about doing things exact and precise, but the systems always end up having some glitch or some weird rule that nobody even knows about. And so it's just weird, especially because I didn't do 12. Like, I was purposely, because I like to do that. I don't know if that's something I've explained before, but I like to get as close to a whole number without actually striking it. I love that. So when my raise was 99 cents, for me it's like it's a sign. It's a sign from God, really, because that's the kind of thing I like. I like things being just a little bit off. You know what I mean? And I've always been into that. So, but in this case, I was gonna do 59. I guess though, the way it rounds the hours or something, it could have glitched it. I'm sure you guys are so tired of hearing this. I'm almost certain. But I just had to get it off my chest. I mean, it was burning. It was burning on my mind, and this kind of stuff really stresses me out, especially because it's Friday, and I just don't know what's going on. You know, I can't believe it would happen now. I don't like it. And again, especially because those buttons, I could have sworn they were there and they disappeared the second the clock struck 29. And again, that it just doesn't make sense, because I would think has to be a rounding issue. It has to be that it was rounding up to give me 12. And, you know, I probably could have punched out at 28, but then it just doesn't let you then. And I just hope I didn't foul something up. It's such a weird limitation to have, right? But like I said, I mean, I think it'll all get worked out. It's just another thing, like, I don't know why it happens to me. Well, I do know why it happens to me, but I'm not going to disclose that. Not going to disclose it publicly, although eventually I will. Eventually I will tell you guys how I know stuff and how I'm figuring it all out. All that good stuff. But other than that, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like a pretty sudden burst of energy towards the end of the day. Has this been all the same week? Yeah, I think this has been the Peter Thiel week, where Monday, Tuesday, and the end of last week, I had some of my most profound insights, I thought. I think it was this week. I don't think it was the week before. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to even keep track. You would think this show would assist in keeping track of things, which I think it does. I do think recording on a regular basis like this definitely helps when it comes to keeping track of things, for sure. But you would think it would really solidify things even further, but that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes then, at least the episode, you know what, I think this is to explain it. It grounds me more in the day-by-day basis, for sure. It grounds me more, and it kind of puts me more in the moment and gives me a better chance to figure things out, definitely. But when it comes to, I'm really pushing the RPMs right now. Burning fuel, but being good on my transmission. Because, I don't know, if we're coming up to a stop sign, I don't see a point in shifting up when I may have to stop anyway. But yeah, that time thing's going to bug me, but you know what? We're going to make it through. That's kind of what God tasks me with, and I may explain how I am aware of that at some point, but not right now, because I don't know if I want to disclose all my secrets at the moment, so it is what it is. But yeah, I think that's pretty much, I probably should have shifted. Then I was getting a little carried away with pushing it. Yeah, I don't know. At first, that's what I thought. When I first shifted to manual, it was very loud. You know, it was super loud, and I wasn't too into that. I thought that was a little bit unsettling even. And so I didn't like it. It was weird at first, but now it's too quiet in automatic. it's weird. Now that's unsettling, you know. I kind of got used to hearing the engine a little more. I know it's better for the engine, so I'm doing the right thing by, you know, manual. I know I am. I love it. It's just, I can't, I never really want to drive a car in automatic now. It doesn't feel right. Now, of course, I'm doing fake manual, which is, it's easy. You just shift the thing up and down because it's an auto car. But at some point I'm sure I would like a truly manual car. I would do stuff like gear skipping, like shifting straight from second to fourth and stuff like that. That would actually happen quite a bit because there's like a lot of circumstances where that would make sense because there's not really a reason for it. I mean, it's worth it to let the RPM get a little bit higher if it means, if you let the RPM get a little bit higher, I think to avoid a shift is entirely worth it. As far as I know, I mean, that's something to ask AI to vet, but that's just my theory. Now, it could be wrong. This is live in the moment guesswork. Guesswork by Schlaw. This is live in the moment guesswork by Schlaw, so I could be wrong. But my theory is that because I've heard the most efficient RPM range is usually 2.5 to 3,000. So 2,500 to 3,000. I think that is the best for the engine. Now, I obviously err lower than that because, I mean, you know, a little lower, like more closer to 2 or something, because the way they have it tuned, it's running under 2 all the time anyway. So I want to try to do some kind of a hybrid between fuel economy and health. You know, I mean, you can't, I think it gets to a point where it's questionable and you need a balance. But that's kind of my theory, is that letting the RPM ride even to 3.5 or 4, but skipping an entire gear shift, I really have a hunch that in a lot of situations that is overall less wear on the car because you're eliminating an entire gear shift, and it's not necessarily bad for the engine to let it rev as long as it's, I mean, again, and this should be vetted by an AI to kind of see, because this is a lot of guesswork. I'm not a car genius. I'm just basing, I guess, my trajectory of things and kind of thinking this sounds like it makes sense. I would assume it makes sense. I would assume that what I'm saying is accurate. And yeah, I don't know. Is that it? I think that's all that needs to be said. But yeah, I don't know what I was actually going to talk about. I guess the Peter Thiel video went up today. I was thinking that was going to be my big viral break, but we will see what ultimately comes of that. Because, I mean, you know, you never really know with that stuff. I don't know. But I do have another idea that I'm going to keep secret, and I do think this will be my true viral break. I know it's going to be my true viral break, so it's a very, very interesting idea that me and a co-conspirator have concocted. So look forward to it. It may already be out by the time this video is uploaded, because the surprise Peter Thiel video actually just shifted all the Car Rides Wit Schlaw. So I snuck it in on Friday's upload slot, and that's kind of what I think I'll do when there is a special video. For the time being, at least, I do kind of have an intention to up the ante and potentially start doing 15 recordings a week, which means I would do 2 videos a day, and it would be Sunday through Saturday, just every day, 7 days is what it would be. So yeah, I mean, there's that. Not sure what else I wanted to talk about. I guess the main thing that's really resonating with me, because because I haven't heard it talked about, and I know I've repeated this a million times, but I'm still going to repeat it, is that concept about, it's that thing about equality, but through not only cognitive capacity, but consideration capacity and care capacity. It's really something I've never particularly thought of it much, but I've never really heard a lot of discourse about it. But I think it's true. I don't know. I genuinely think that there's something to it, because it is true that certain people just cannot have the capacity to appreciate things in the same way as others. I think a good example of that is with cars. And this I don't think I've talked about before. Possibly, but probably not. I notice cars, and I probably have a fairly good idea of the cost of them. Like when I see a luxury car or a special car, or even just a regular car, I have an idea in my mind of what the original MSRP was, what its current value probably is. I have a pretty good grasp on it. Now, sometimes it's a little bit shaky. I admittedly have not browsed a lot of the car websites as much as I used to, but, well, mainly because they're a lot less interesting now. I don't really like how a lot of websites redesigned themselves. It's kind of annoying to me. But, yeah, so it's not as enjoyable as it once was. It used to be, I really used to go on, like, basically every brand's website. Honestly. And it was pretty nice. Usually. I was really into it, so I had a much better grasp then, but I still think I have a good grasp. And I notice cars, I think a good example that I notice is the Acura RLX. In terms of a interesting car, I've always liked it. If I had to have a sedan that was a little bit more practical, but still luxurious and interesting, I don't know. I always thought it looked really cool. I always thought the double row tiger's eye headlights, I think they were called that. Wow, I can't believe that just came to me. I don't know if that's actually what it's called, but when I saw one, I believe 2 weeks ago, I had forgot what they called it, and that just came to me. So if that's actually true and correct, I think that's going to be pretty impressive. That I don't know, that just came to me, the tiger eye thing. I think that's what they called it. They called it, but don't quote me on it. Please do not quote me on it. I really like it. The TLX has a single row, but the RLX has 2 rows, and it looks phenomenal. It just looks so pretty. So it's just such an interesting car. I mean, maybe it is a bit ugly. You know, it's not as good looking as some of the German cars, obviously, but I think it's just an interesting looking car. But, you know, a lot of people, by looking at it, would never have known the original MSRP. And, of course, this is putting me on the spot, and now I'm setting myself up for embarrassment because I don't really remember it that well. But I think it was 50 or 60,000 starting at, I think. And, I mean, that does make sense, too, because Acura is usually it's cheaper than the other luxury brands. But that's what's coming to me. Yeah, I think that's probably correct. But, of course, somebody can be listening to this and fact check me and be like, oh, what does he know? You know, all this stuff. Because I'm not sure how right or wrong I got it. But I hope I got it right. I do believe it's 50 to 60,000. I hope that's correct. Now, where were we? I think it's a cool car. I notice it. I assume when most people see it, I assume that they have no idea that it's a $50,000 or $60,000 car. You know, I think when a lot of people see cars, you know, either maybe they do upset, like maybe someone sees a Mercedes and just thinks, oh, that's expensive. But that might be it. That might be end of discussion, you know, oh, that's expensive. And then that's it. They don't have a metric, though, to kind of rate and scale different cars and the different brands and how the pricing is different, and really have a specific quantity and quantifiable metric for how valuable a car is, and notice details about the design and talk about it. I mean, these are all things I obsess over. When I look at a car, I look at the different points and just all the different design features. And a lot of people might just see a car as a color. They may never really look at it or be able to, you know, if they do look at it, can they really articulate all the different features of it? So I mean, maybe it is the more materialistic side of me. And I'll open to admit that. I do think I have some materialistic tendencies. But that's obviously an example of a higher capacity of care and appreciation. And not everybody has that. Some people just see a fancy car as a fancy car and think it's junk or it's bad or it's evil, right? Because of the inequality axis of it, which I also understand that too. I think that's the other thing about me. I hope people have noticed in my previous Car Rides Wit Schlaw is my capacity to weigh both sides. Like I'm not dismissive of that, because that is another angle. The extravagance of the nice cars come at the expense of more resources were put into that, as opposed to keeping just all car brands as cheap as possible. That would obviously be ideal for most people. I just think that's a little bit depressing. I don't know, especially as somebody who can appreciate and conceive and detect the different values in things and the different values in things, designs and stuff. I really appreciate it. And so I guess I'm a little conflicted, and it's difficult for me to want to accept the truth, which is the cold, hard, logical truth. It probably is that every car should just be designed like a Toyota if you're talking about fairness and equality. But then you're lacking human potential. It's still something I'm fairly conflicted about. Sorry, it's just this person really... I was like totally giving them the chance to go, and they just totally didn't. They just totally braked at the last second, and they had so much room. So I guess it was just a really weird judgment call. It looked like it could have been an older woman, but not like grandma old, just older, probably 50s. And it's kind of an odd older Hyundai sedan. I want to say the Sonata, but it also could be the Elantra. Because it's a little difficult and my memory is a bit iffy, but it's one of those older Hyundai sedans, probably from the 2000s. Anyways, that's why I'm a little bit conflicted, because I do see both sides. I see both sides of that. I see that humanity should be a species that we should see the potential. I mean, make the coolest cars possible and, you know, all that good stuff. And I really appreciate that. Now, a lot of people don't, you know. A lot of people, they just want a basic car that's cheap and to lowball it through life and to, you know, eat cheap food and just mess around and buy silly stuff, you know, that doesn't really have a purpose, stuff that's just shallow maybe or surface level. It's how a lot of people operate. And I don't know that they appreciate some of the finer things that I can, and I think it's obviously a smaller subset. And now bear in mind, I want to be very clear about this. There are certain people who they might have some fancy car, but I am not going to qualify them for what I'm talking about. I mean, when I open a car's door, I immediately can tell the quality of the door handle mechanism, the thunk, and the rigidity and the sturdiness of the door. I mean, I notice that thing. I notice the steering wheel feel, how firm it is, how loose it is, the textures of all this stuff. I notice it all. There's a lot of people, I think, who are rich who don't. And I know I've talked about this before on Car Rides Wit Schlaw, and that really makes me mad. So I saw this guy, and I think I said this before on Car Rides Wit Schlaw too, but it's just such a good example of what I'm talking about. He was driving a Rolls-Royce SUV, and he was going to eat in the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru. To me, that is atrocious. If I could afford a Rolls-Royce SUV, I would not be eating at Dunkin' Donuts. To me, that is insane. I mean, I just don't even know. You know, you could afford any coffee and any donut you want. Why would you shop at Dunkin' Donuts if you have the money for a Rolls Royce? You know, because you could appreciate like a artisan bakery with all, like, you know what I'm saying? So that really gets me. I think that's I took a picture of it too. I'll have to find that on my phone. This was a while ago. Not a while ago, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, or somewhere around there. So I can probably find it. But yeah, that stuff kind of ticks me off. I think there's a lot of richer people that I just don't think they should be rich, and I think that is probably the more left-wing or more communist kind of aspect to me. It's meritocracy, right? It's not exactly left-wing, but it's a little bit. I do think there should be redistribution to people who can use it. And an example of that is Peter Thiel offering $100,000 to people under 22 to do a startup or something like that. And there were a lot of interesting ideas that came out through that. That's kind of an example of where if you set up a meritocratic society, I think it really encourages a lot of good things to come out of it. But there has to be some redistribution, because there are rich people who have a lot of money and who just sit on it and hoard it, and they're not really doing much with it. They're not accomplishing much with it. And so that's obviously a super important distinction to make between, and I don't know, I think a lot of Republicans kind of do have the sleazy archetype. When you think of people when I think of like car salesmen, and I've seen statistics on this, they're the most Republican. That it just totally makes sense. Like a sleazy car salesman is a Republican, it's totally that. And I don't know, I almost wonder if my economic beliefs in some ways do align more democratic, right? Because it's meritocracy, but again, I do think it's important to have redistribution to people who can use it efficiently. But I'm not super into welfare. I think you should provide welfare perhaps as a means for people to subsist. You don't want... It causes too much instability to a point. But I've never really been a fan of welfare. It's always kind of been in my blood. The second I heard what it was, I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. But as time has went on, I actually think I'm more in between on it now. I recently was super into it. I thought it was just a good thing, and Social Security should be further supported. But I'm not really sure. I kind of wonder if I'm drifting back to my roots of more of a hybrid design or something. I'm just not really sure. Not sure what my opinion is on that. But ever since when I was like a child or a teenager and I heard about that, I didn't like it. But I'm realizing, though, I am in a place of privilege. I'm in a position where I don't have to worry about that. So it's also, I'm aware of, there is a bias that I would not like it. You know what I mean? There's a just based on my economic situation, which I'm not rich, but I'm not at that point where I don't believe at the current trajectory I'm at that I would ever really be needing Social Security. But I mean, it's possible in retirement, but I don't even know. I'm just kind of like, I like to save money, and I've always been like that. I mean, I have splurge periods. I've spent a lot as well, but just saying as a person, I really am usually fairly on top of things and fairly monastic in nature. And so, I don't know, I've never been that into it. I think this is my way of interpreting it. I think my life would be better if Social Security wasn't there, but I think it's, I mean, me and how many other people? 10 or 20% of the population. So I don't know how fair it is, but yeah, I guess I would openly say if I was just totally for personal reasons, I would wipe it, but I am so well aware of the amount of chaos that would ensue and how it's not really fair, and you have to think about a lot of people who are not really cognizant about savings and all that stuff. It makes sense to have as a system. It's just that I guess I always get in these kind of back and forths where I really do understand both perspectives to things, you know, and it creates an interesting dialogue, it creates an interesting conversation, but in terms of when we're actually trying to figure out what would I really want to believe, I can't just vote selfishly because I don't see the world just through my own eyes. I also know, I have an understanding of that as a greater society. Social Security is good. It's a popular program, and it keeps a lot of people who would just be in poverty not in poverty. So is that a good thing for the small amount of growth that it potentially restricts? Probably. You know, I mean, you don't really want to see elderly people on the streets because inevitably people are not good at saving, and when they get older they don't have enough money. They're not thinking ahead. Now, I'm always thinking ahead. Now, the generation I'm growing up in, I'm not sure if it's going to matter because we can't even get our foot in the door in terms of saving. But if I was born in the 60s, my retirement would have been stacked. I mean, I would have just been a machine if I was born in the 60s. I'd be so rich. I am so sure I'd be like filthily rich. I can't even. But, you know, I still could be filthily rich now. I don't know what's going to happen. My series could go viral. I'm obviously at a pretty high work output. So, you know, it is what it is, right? I'm not at I'm in a good place. I mean, I think for my age, I have a decent amount saved up, and I'm hoping for, like I said, about the next 2 years, I really want to lock in pretty aggressively. Trying to think, I don't know if an entire 2-year period, but almost a 2-year period. Like basically, I guess a year and 11 months from now is kind of what I'm saying. Something like that, or a year and 10 months. I really want to be like aggressively saving. Because like I said, I think I could get rich off of the channel. Stuff could blow up. And I want to learn the ropes beforehand. You know, I don't want to be kind of like spending and never have had the character built of saving. I think it's a good experiment for me to embark on because A, it's going to train me how to handle all the wealth that's coming in, or B, if times are tough for me, I'm going to have a stockpile, and then I'm also going to have developed the discipline to maintain that stockpile if I have to continue to work a 9 to 5, which I don't think I will, but I've already explained that it's not a lazy thing. It's just I genuinely think that my speech and communication, I have a lot to offer. So I just think what I'm doing, it's fine, it's good, but I could be talking for hours every day. I could be recording in a studio. It wouldn't have to be in the car. It could be in just a perfect studio, and my voice, I could just talk so much. I could basically be talking all the time, and that's all I could do is kind of debate about different ideas. I'd probably be a good live streamer, but I can't do that with my current output, because I'd get home and I'd really only be able to stream for a pretty small period of time. I mean, even if I cut back on my hours, I wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? But I think I could do it. I really do. It's kind of what makes me mad, because I may have been able to avoid, but you see, that's the thing. I mean, it built character having to actually work. So I don't have a problem with that. Very at peace with it. I think I'm more at peace with it than a lot of people. But then again, I also have a more stable situation. I'm not going to say rich, because it's not like that. I still definitely need to work. I don't just have money handed to me, but I don't have expenses lined up. You know what I mean? I don't have bills to pay. I only have just the stuff that, the basic stuff to pay, like car stuff and all, and food and all that. But, I don't have major things. So I'm in a fortunate situation. And that's something I'm aware of too, where am I only able to do what I'm doing because of my situation? It's probably also because of my genetics, because I just don't think a lot of people could even handle being at work for, I just did a 12-hour shift voluntarily, did not need to do that if I didn't want to. And so, it's just, it's not normal. And it's definitely, above average, whatever you want to call it. So, I don't know. But I was very excited to talk today, as you can tell. I was brimming. It wasn't as deep. It was not as deep, but it was a little more electric. And it would have been even better if my heart really sank when that timing thing happened. And like I said, I probably should get back in the habit of doing the TLDRs with Schlaw, but I just hate it. It's just so much mental work to try to remember what I was talking about, but it's probably a really good mental muscle. I should probably try to do it. So let's try to do a TLDR with Schlaw, no pressure. And I usually try to keep it under a minute, but I don't know, just no pressure. We'll just try to do